Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. We're going on to the Druids now, and starting off with the Superstorm, which is the top path that has the Ball Lightning and the Druid of the Storm 2, or just the Tornado Druid. It was stolen from the Wizard from BTD5. Anyways, the Druid of the Storm does ceramic support, and it's getting a little more popular now. Ball Lightning does ceramic support too, and also can be used as high pierce balloon cleanup in the mid game, and Superstorm does extreme late game blowback. It's kind of crazy and a bit unfun, and you'll see why later. I'll talk about that. So Druid of the Storm is a pretty interesting tower. It got like a lot more popular recently, and then got a lot of nerfs, which is kind of annoying, but it's still actually really good with Open and pretty decent all around with the rest of that. Ball Lightning is a better version of that, plus it has the ability to really do a lot in the mid game when it comes to dealing with Bloons, and then Superstorm just blows back everything. It's kind of like a win condition. So for the cross path, I tend to like to go for the bottom path, just because the range helps out a little bit. Not really much will help out with the tornado itself. And plus, if you get the second path on the bottom, the Heart of Vengeance, that will give you plus 10% attack speed in Chimps mode, which I tend to just pick up along with the ride. So that's cross paths, pretty simple. And now for the buffs. You don't really want to buff the tier 1 or 2 or 3 really. These guys don't really do much with buffs, but Oben really will make the tornadoes a lot stronger and is a lot more effective. You also will probably have some pop lusts in there if you're going to be using this with pop lust, so that's a good additive, although you wouldn't really get pop lust just to buff the Druid of the Storm alone. And for the maps it's good on, it's really good on a lot of maps. You just need to have range for it to be able to throw stuff back, so you're going to be using this guy on a ton of maps. It's just going to be at the end grabbing the ceramics, so like on Ravine you might see it a lot. Just any really difficult maps you will tend to work out well as a support. So its pros is that it's very cheap ceramic support, mid-game balloon cleanup that is useful in the late game, which is very nice. The Superstorm is very expensive as a con though, and it's not very fun in the late game, and Druid of the Storm isn't always that consistent just by itself. So the objectives here is that we'll do Superstorm late game, the Ball Lightning uses, and the Druid of the Storm uses. I only have one example run this time, just because there really isn't a whole lot to show over 2 example runs. So just keeping it simple with 1 example run. And on top of this, I'm just going to have kind of some more examples of the Druid of the Storm and Ball Lightning in the middle of this. So starting off here, when it comes to using the Superstorm, it's kind of not really that fun, to be honest, just because once you get it, like, it's pretty expensive, so you're gonna have to save up a good bit, and in that time you could just literally get Avatar of Wrath, which it's like a boring thing, but if you want to do something fun, I guess you could go for Superstorm. Once you get it, you're gonna be waiting a long time, because this one game of Chimps lasted over 40 minutes, because the Superstorm literally just sends Bloons back, and it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so nothing's really going to damage it, and then they have to come all the way to the front and so forth. It just ends up taking a long time, but if you get it, you kind of just win. The only thing that won't really hurt you is round 100. However, the tier 3 and tier 4 are actually really cool. That should get a lot of uses. The Ball Lightning is one of them that I don't really use a lot, even though I know it's good. And I think for black borders more specifically, maybe less so for challenges, but for black borders, it's really neat because it has the ability to be very useful in the mid game, but still have a lot of use as a support tower in the late game. For a lot of the towers that kind of fit its role in the mid game, which is to deal damage to like large high pierce rounds like 63, 78, kind of just dealing with all those balloons in the middle, they, like, pretty much all of them just completely fall off afterwards. And for more expensive towers, they might not even really do a whole lot. Like a Comanche defense will do a little bit, but not a whole lot. On the other hand, the Ball Lightning will do great in the mid game, but it also is great at blowing ceramics back too in the late game, which is really nice. So it has some good uses for that. For this early game game that I'm doing here, I'm just doing something very simple. You've seen me talk about this a lot before, but it's just an alk buffed Oban with the Tornado, and that will beat round 40 when you use the Bramble on the Bramble on Oban to pop that Moab. The Moab layer pops with the Brambles, and then the Tornado blows everything back. It's super easy. I use that for all of my Druid setups that isn't going for Spirit of the Forest, because for Spirit of the Forest I do that, but just with a Druid of the Jungle inside instead. From there, it's the same as all the other Druid setups. You've been seeing a lot of these recently, especially in these Strat Series videos, so you're probably very familiar with this if you've seen multiple of these guys, but we just kind of want to pre-place all of these Druids. Throw the Alk, well, the Alk is there already, so just have 2 discounts at the back. You can even get 1 if you're not going for Avatar Wrath, because then you don't need MI to get MIB, but just pre-place them, then that will make things easier. You're going to want 6 or 5 Druids. 5 of them, or 6 of them is technically getting the most of the buff, but in reality 5 is really probably all you need in most cases. You can just get 6 though, because why not? It will help out a bit, I guess. But then you just get 2 stronger stimulants, both 4/1, and they're going to be buffing these guys up really well. And this is just an insane combination. You can use this to get, well, if you replace the Druid of the Storm with a Jungle's Bounty, you could use this to get Spirit of the Forest super easily. Avatar of Wrath, you can use this just as a combination to get any random tower, but it will also save up to Superstorm. So now let's take out these Druid of the Storms just in a kind of more isolated example, because this example run will not be that great. So this guy just sends a Tornado out, and it's going to blow some stuff back. If it's on a straight line and it's not chasing, it's going to do way better. As you can see, when it's chasing, it isn't doing that good. So placement can actually matter for this kind of a lot, but it is pretty inconsistent generally if the map doesn't have like a ton of bends and stuff. So if you compare this to a Bloon Impact, you can see the Bloon Impact is gonna do pretty much better at stopping the ceramics. They're all kind of grouped up, they're not going anywhere. The Druid of the Storm will push them back farther, but a lot of times it misses and the Tornado goes in a random direction. The buff recently that it got where the Storm's home is, I guess, a little help, but because of this inconsistency, you don't want a random ceramic leaking, because it's only going to take 1 to end your Chimps run. So I usually get Druid of the Storm if we're pairing it with a Snowstorm. So if you have a Snowstorm and you need something to push the ceramics back that are in the Snowstorm, a Druid of the Storm is going to be great. As you can see in that entire thing, it only let 1 through, which is pretty darn good for the amount of ceramics I sent that at it. So with a Snowstorm, it's great, or just Arctic Wind. The other use is going to be a Spiked Mines. So just any Spike Factory, for example, would be great, but with this example of Spiked Mines, it's really going to help out a lot, because the Druid of the Storm is going to push all of the Bloons, or ceramics most specifically, that are going into the Spike Factory away, which will save a ton of RBE on the Spike Factory. So as you can see with that example, nothing got through with a good amount of spikes later, but if I take away the Druid of the Storm, it's way worse. The Druid of the Storm just on a Spike Factory can make it far, far more efficient, which is a pretty cool trick to use. Plus with that, just if you have like an Ice Monkey and you need some extra help, Druid of the Storm will push things back. If you have a map that has like a ton of loops and is kind of long, it would probably be consistent enough. But on short maps, I tend to avoid just using a single Druid of the Storm to push things back. In challenges, I'll often do this because I can use RNG to my advantage. But if you're going to be dealing with RNG, I'd just rather not. I'll use something like a Bloon Impact instead. But if you have the Arctic Wind to help out, or you need to cut some RBE on a Spike Factory, it's a great choice and I really recommend using it. Now for the bling, as some would say, it does have quite the bling. The Ball Lightning, that is, it will do that same thing. It has that enhanced Tornado, so it's going to be great in the late game too. The damage wise, it's not really going to be doing much, but it can like freeze stuff too, which is a really cool addition. Freeze the ceramics. You might be able to see that a little bit here, but it's going to be really great at popping the Bloons. in the mid game, and then it's going to have a lot of effects later on, which is really nice. And for not a bad price too, to be honest, only 4.8k more. So if you need something that will pop some balloons and your setup need some extra help with ceramics in late game, the ball lightning might be a really cool addition that you could use. Doesn't really do anything to Moabs, but that's not what it's going to be specializing in anyways. So they're two pretty cool towers. Anyways, onto the Superstorm. You can see we got the Superstorm in this example. It's kind of expensive, but this setup is pretty crazy, and on this map specifically, it's going to be really long. This thing doesn't really necessarily have any weaknesses, especially if you have a bunch of pop-us buffs on it. It's going to be able to blow back everything, even on a map where two lanes are coming in at you at once. So it's not like that's really going to be of any concern here, but it's just taking painfully long. And if you want to play like this, I guess you could, but this game without like a fast forward mod, this takes far too long for anybody to ever really deal with. So that's kind of Superstorm-ish, I guess. The tier 3 and tier 4 are really cool. They have some great uses that you can use and fit in well. They have like some weaknesses, strength. I think they're pretty cool balanced towers. The Superstorm, on the other hand, is something else. So I guess that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. Have a nice day.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!